So when I first heard about Cuba, I thought that was a pretty neat idea. But then reality hit, and I found out that it was too grand, and I realized that there was no way that I could do that. But I was convicted to do something about it and to keep praying about it, so I did. I started raising money, and I talked to my dad about it, and my dad said that he was going to be able to help me with half of that money, which is $1,000. But then a couple days later, he told me that he was only going to be able to help me with $500. And my faith grew a little weary, but I kept going. But then a couple of days later, again, he told me that he wasn't going to be able to help me with anything. And that just showed me that I had to lean more on my Heavenly Father than on anyone else. And he definitely proved to me through this ministry, through all of this mission trip, that he can work through any circumstance, no matter what it is.
One of the things I enjoyed the most when we were in Cuba was when we went to a field to pick tomatoes of a man who had really helped the church in that area. He wasn't even Seventh-day Adventist, but he had decided to help the church. And we went there and worked about an hour, and we picked 13 baskets, which was the same amount as the people who had been working all morning. It was really hard work because the mud was very dirty, and afterwards we were really dirty. I guess what I enjoyed the most was how rewarding it was after that, to know that we had helped the community there and people who needed those tomatoes.
Okay, so my best experience in Cuba was hanging out with the children. You know, we would play games together and we would do crafts. That was really fun and everything. But the thing I enjoyed the most was telling them about Jesus and who he really was. Yes, they already knew a little bit about him, but they didn't know who he really was. And through God's grace, he was able, through me, to tell them that he is always there for them and that he will never leave them nor forsake them.
So my school went on a missionary trip to Cuba, and we did a lot of evangelistic work there. And I was with a partner, and his name is Nathan, and we worked with the kids. We did VBS. We would start off with, like a prayer, the theme song. Then we would do a little sermonette for like 20 minutes, and then we would do crafts and then games. The games had nothing to do with the evangelist work, but something that really touched me was one day it was the last day, and we were like, What do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to do the craft, which has to do with the sermon, or do you want to do the game, which is just random games that we do? And they were all like, oh, we want to do the craft. It was fun. We get to learn more about God and stuff. So that really impacted me, that they wanted to do the craft instead of the game.
What impacted me the most in Cuba was giving the sermons. It usually takes me up to 4 hours to translate a sermon from Spanish to English before I present it. And there was this certain day, it was the last sermon that I preached, and it was 30 minutes before I went up to preach, and I had half of the sermon done. It wasn't fully entire, so I had to cut out a lot of slides, and I had to make it shorter. I had maybe 30 slides towards the end, and I asked God to help me, and he did. And towards the end of the sermon, God blessed, and he gave me peace in my heart. Yeah.
Okay, so while I was in Cuba, there was one man that would come to me every day. His name was Obed. And Obed, even though he's lived in this country where he's not making very much money, he's happy. And he would come to me every night, and he would come over and he would shake my hand, and he would grab it and he would hug me, and he'd be like, love you, brother. And I was thinking, this guy is so cool. It was almost in just no time whatsoever, he felt like family. He felt like someone I could talk with, even though I didn't understand most of what he was saying, and he didn't understand what I was saying. I mean, I've studied a little bit of Spanish, he studied a little bit of English, but we had this language divide. But even with the language divide, he was so friendly and open, and I felt like he was my uncle or someone. And his dad, his dad was in a wheelchair, and his dad would just smile from ear to ear. He was so loving and kind, and he was enjoying the meetings. It was such a beautiful thing to see people that, even though they haven't lived in mansions and been given tons of money, are still happy, and they are open to talking. They love new people. And that's what impacted me the most while I was in Cuba.
So on the way back from Cuba, I was able to see God work in my life. And what happened was we were in the airport in the Bahamas, and I lost my passport, and I just set it down somewhere probably, and we just couldn't find it. So after we prayed, our leader reached into his back pocket, and he pulled out his passport that he had put in there. And my passport was like right behind his. So he pulled out 2 passports, and I was able to go to the United States again.